So we're doing a nighttime practice because this next series of preparatory postures towards the tray release is something that needs to be approached in a really restorative way. So it's good to light some candles, make sure the space is warm and that you're really in comfortable clothing, so you can really drop into the meditational aspect of these yoga postures. And as before, just leave out whatever doesn't feel suitable for you, or just calibrate to a version that feels more appropriate. And use blocks, makeshift ones like rolled up towels or blankets or pillows to just cushion, particularly protecting knees, to help support where you feel you need to. And just be creative with that, not so much being like, am I getting this right or wrong, more just sort of explore what feels good to help the body open up. And this is all preparatory postures towards a tray release that is specifically designed for healing, opening, clearing the base chakra. It's a way of integrating all the deep healings you've been going through. So in a way, the main thing again is the meditative approach, the breath, the really deepening into inhaling as you engage into a posture, exhale as you deepen through it, and then also when you transition to the next posture. So I will demonstrate these in a very brief manner for the benefit of the video, but I would suggest doing each posture up to sort of 4 or 5 minutes. But that doesn't mean you have to lock down and stay in the posture. That means you can just test, visit it, breathe, back off, and sort of be explorative within it. So having that more sort of playful approach to just kind of feel how you can open the body in a nurturing way to really help nurture the body into yielding rather than resisting, barricading. We're breaking down our barricades, we're breaking down our armouring, that's all that survival fear that's conditioned the body. And we're moving towards opening, releasing the psoas for the tray release, which I'll talk about in a moment. So just to begin with, we want to help the jaw relax and release. So you just find a comfortable sitting position. And from here, you could again remember to use a little bit of a raise, and you could just sit there but with the tailbone floating so that the hips are able to open, hip flexors are able to open. And from here you just begin that breathing that you're comfortable with by now, is just breathing up from the earth and relaxing down into the earth. And as you relax, remember, you can really let the shoulders relax, try to release the jaw. The jaw, the hinge of the body, will correspond to the pelvis and to the hinge going on with the psoas. So if we begin by just a little self-massage, so if you take your fists, then you can just start to sink in to the TGI points, that dip just here. Get the knuckles to meld until it opens up. And this clenching of the fist is the base chakra mudra in itself. So it's sinking, deep, slow breathing, little firm circles, quite firm, and just tracing down with the mouth open and the sound just releasing down the edges of the jaw until you release out to the chin. Take your time with that. So a really slow approach, sinking into that dip with the knuckles, firmly engaging. You might really feel the ache, especially for one of those that sort of clench our jaw at night. All that stress patterns build in the body. We don't even know we're carrying so much. So sometimes when we do yoga, it's a hermetic practice, which means it's really about in and through. Sometimes it really reveals the pain that we've been holding on to, but it transmutes it, it lets it out. So sometimes people can stop at that level thinking, oh, yoga's creating the pain, when actually no, it's bringing you into the awareness of what was locked in unconsciousness. So we're helping to that to just ease out, softening the jaw with a and releasing down to the chin. I would do that at least 3 times. And then we want to let the neck unwind, because whatever gets locked down here backs up here into the head, the neck and the jaw. So often when we've got head tensions or migraines or sort of symptoms that correspond to this area, jaw ache, neck ache, it's because of how energy is an earthing grounding. So perhaps if you've been traveling a lot, you might notice that happen. Energy moves into the vata part of the body, the air element of the body in the dosha system, and therefore we get ungrounded and the system doesn't relax and release down. So symptoms like constipation, these congestions, they come from the blockage at the base. So we have lots of physical symptoms that are based on blocked base chakra. And a lot of the time we don't know, because this is the subconscious, what we bury, what we push down, but it shows up at the head level. So often face swellings, things like this, is because we haven't got the earthing currents open in those meridian channels. So yoga is such a vital tool that can help us really open and clear the conditioned consciousness out of the body on a really deep cellular level and help unwind the fascia. So even if you're not familiar with it, just notice it. We can begin from the beginner's mind, just to explore, rather than telling yourself you can't do yoga. It doesn't need to look like something complex or pretzel. It's a self-healing massage tool, essentially. So we're beginning with that release through the jaw, and then we can just give a little, like a cow munching, sort of just making a stupid face, being willing to look ridiculous. It's very good for the ego. And just sort of like both ways, just sort of munching, making like a circle. Then take a deep breath in and take your left hand up on top of your head. Inhale and engage the fingers into the dip here at the collarbone, and exhale, nestle your head into your shoulder as you again allow a sound, ah, and you're releasing all those tendons on the neck and the jaw, draining that area down, sort of allowing those lymph nodes to open, and slowly drawing up. Again, take your time with this, and then the other way. Breathe in, exhale, mouth is open, sighing out. There can be a lot of tension in there, so go slow, let it release, and then drawing back up to center. And then this pelvic girdle we spoke about earlier, this connection here. So we want to just release our shoulders, because the shoulders get backed up like this when we've been tensioning, locking in stress modes, and the base has been blocked. So you might notice you're someone who just raises your shoulders or hunches your shoulders. It's like carrying the weight of the world. So we want to just do a little exercise to release that, which will mean illuminating it, bringing up the awareness of where it's in tension. So you're just taking a breath in, and we're going to use Mulabandha. So that is the perineum seal, to remind you. It's the engagement there, just drawing up that pulse, flushing it to the brain, and releasing. And we're going to do it in time with this release for the neck, the throat, the jaw, and the shoulders. Take a deep breath in. I really tried to make the sound. So you're giving nada yoga, is that the nada yoga is the yoga of sound. And you're using the sound to sort of massage the internal organs. It's sort of a ha, and it's a releasing out of tension, of negative energy, of holding patterns in the body. So just really let yourself be encouraged in using the sound as you move with yoga to allow the therapeutic aspect of that. Take a breath in. Ha, 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 ha. And you can continue this for a good sort of few minutes, at least 5 minutes. Rising, maybe you get faster, but you really relinquish your holding. It's again remembering that quote from Amma, putting your baggage down, really allowing yourself, when you get on the train, you put your baggage down, you let God carry you back to source. It's this thing of like, whatever you've been holding on here, it's been backlogged, weighing you down, drop it to the earth. So it's breathing up, rejuvenating, restoring, and exhale, emptying out. So you can go slow or fast as you feel, but you'll start to feel a real ache, even maybe the jaw, and you'll feel like you want to stop. That's the energy of resistance there. It will want to kind of go, no, I don't want to do this anymore. It's like getting painful. But actually, it's the release valve that opens, and the pain's able to come out of the body, and you'll notice it relaxes so much more afterwards. So give it a chance with all of these things. You might at first really meet painful, tender places that bring up a lot of emotion, and be willing to work with the psychotherapeutic aspect of yoga, the emotional response, the inner child that gets activated, the kind of like, oh no, I can't do this, whatever moaning and groaning comes, welcome it, embrace it, because that is part of the emotional release, to move out the conditioned consciousness to move out this sort of the cellular impact that our conditioning, our separation consciousness has had on our bodies. It's been carrying all of this around and backlogged. So we need to give it a free passage to move out. So it means becoming conscious of the unconscious. So from here, from that basic sitting pose, we're just going to allow a little bit more subtler form of yoga. So now some of those pathways are open, which is the mudra. This is something you can also do in meditation, you can do in just in silent periods when you're resting or you're traveling. It's a very grounding mudra. So we take the left hand and like we wrap it around the fist. It's like a thumb fist, a thumbs up, and we wrap it around and then we let the thumbs connect and we made a conch. It literally looks like a conch sound. So if you can see that, making that and letting the fingers, the thumbs, drop down and just resting it for a moment, and take your time here, a good few minutes, maybe 4 or 5 minutes, to just see if you can sense into the subtler, deepening, grounding, earthing effect of this mudra at the base, and really relaxing into that. And any time we clench our fists in life, that is drawing energy from the earth. It's a powerful, engaged power movement. So of course that's what we use to fight. This is a very strong, solid structure, and it's a very powerful drive behind it. So this is exactly what we need for the base, a deep rooting, earthing engagement. So fists in themselves, if you're making this fist and you just rest that in your lap, that itself can empower strength, vitality, and deep sense of grounding and rootedness. So if you look at the Tai Chi or Qigong masters, they're really moving from that depth of deep grounding, but that's where their flexibility comes because of their deep rooting into the earth. And it's the same with the yoga postures. There's a lot of standing postures, which I won't demonstrate here today, but in yourself, if you know some grounding, standing postures that can really help strengthen and deepen your grounding cord in your base, like tree pose, warrior poses, things where you're having to stand and maybe balance, that's really working to heal and deepen your base chakra. So I'd really suggest bringing those in if yoga is a practice that you want to get into. So for now I'm going to be demonstrating some earthing, rooting, sitting postures, just to add to what we did further. So from your cross-legged sitting position in whatever way you've been sitting, just take your legs out from this position and come to the length of your mat. And we'll come back into revisiting that tabletop that we did earlier. Lengthening the tailbone away from the crown, drawing the crown forward so there's a two-way force, so you can actually breathe space between each vertebra. Take a deep breath in and a lengthened sigh out. And then curling your toes under, just start to draw back. So you're hinging at the hips and you're allowing your sit bones to come down towards your heels. And then we're just going to press into Ardha Mukha Svanasana. But we can keep our knees really bent. So this is like making a triangle with the body. And we take a spiral external rotation of the top arms. And lift the tailbone up to the sky. You're on the tops of your feet. And then you just allow the knees to stay bent. And move the ribs towards the thighs. Taking out any front loading or plunging. Drawing back as if someone's pulling you from your hips. But you're deeply planting, rooting your hands down into the ground. And maybe then you can just walk the feet a little to release the hamstrings and the calves. Which is important because those lines get really tight with all the fear, stress conditioning in the body. So you feel that release. It can feel really tension. Maybe it's not possible to straighten that leg. So you just do some little walking motions, just warming up in there. And then taking a moment to ground into that with some deep breaths. And then maybe just looking towards your pubic bone to release your head. Lengthen the neck.
And feel this intention to now stabilize by plugging the hands down, rooting the feet down into the air, so you can rise that left leg all the way up. Inhale and bend that leg and take it over to your right hip. This way we're starting to release the psoas. So you're breathing in sort of up through that inner thigh, all the way up into the hip, pelvis, in the way that, psoas connects into the lumbar region, L5, L6 sort of region. And you breathe some length in there, and then we just roll out our ankles both ways. Take an inhale, this time looking forward, and allow the knee to bend. And we're going to step into our first lunge. Stepping into the lunge, we're just going to get the foundation solid first of all. So if you'd like to just maybe take the foot forward a little bit so that you can have the knee over the ankle joint. This is where you might have some pillows or you might have some blocks. And if you want to stabilize, use your blocks here or here. Otherwise, planting your hands here, the back knee stretches back first of all, lifting up the leg, press two-way force again. So the right back leg is stretching back as the front leg draws forward, and we place the knee down. Come high onto your fingertips for those that you want to, or using your blocks. Lengthen through the spine, grow tall up through the crown. And you still feel the front knee drawing forward as the back leg lengthens away. Take some slow, deep breaths here. And you feel the groin releasing, you feel the psoas stretching, this opening here, and you use some sounds to help release it. Maybe some sighing motions. And maybe then we can just hinge back and lengthen, release the hamstrings, the calves, this sciatic line again that's so important because that goes straight into the base chakra region, those pathways. So here we can curl the toes, which stretches out the hamstrings. These can be tight here, which then really tensions the lower back. So you really want to find this way of engaging the bandhas of the knees, firing up the quads, and this conveyor belt effect here is then to release and lengthen the hamstrings and the calves. Looking forward, take an inhale in this sort of half Hanuman stance. Up to you if you want to come into a high Hanuman or go down low into full Hanuman. Then from here, we take the foot over to the diagonal, the right point of the mat. And then we can draw down. You might like to bring that foot in. And the back knee might like to bend. So we're in this quite an elegant swan posture. So if you're familiar with Ekapada Padasana, it's the king pigeon, then allow yourself to go into that. Otherwise, keeping the knee bent, the back leg, front leg bent, at any angle that feels good for you. If you find you're sort of floating, again, you can use a wedge. Be creative with your cushions, your pillows to wedge where you want to. So we might be up high like this. We might have the leg parallel to the front of the mat, or it might be quite close in. Feel into what feels comfortable, so you can try and ground that left sit bone down to the earth, or it's on your wedge. And then we turn to face the front, so there's a little twisting, spiraling motion. Take an inhale here and lift up through the front body. Open the heart space, open the throat. And then you can rise the left hand up in the swan posture, or for some of you might like to stretch the back leg down, release the knee and stretch out that back leg. Deep rising up, and then we can exhale like a sort of padding, like a cat just slinking down, padding the ground until we come into releasing the head. Another option then is to grab a big pillow or a block and just place your head here. And then we're going to just try a rocking motion. So we're just going to gently rock from side to side, just sort of massaging to ground the right hip down. Just coaxing it down. And what you'll feel releasing here, and stay with this although I'm sitting up to talk with it, is you'll start to release the left glute, the gluteus maximus and the medius, and you'll start to feel that IT band. And there can be a lot of like moving out of it. So the massaging, rocking helps coax it into releasing. If you're feeling a strong tenderness in your knee, it's too sharp. Remember, there's a challenging pain, which is more of a sort of like a massage. It's like a good challenging opening. That's called tapas. It's like we're willingly challenging ourselves to create an opening for the highest good. But there's a sharp pain, the knees are aching in any particular way, then perhaps you've got too much of an angle here on that front leg. Draw it in a little bit and keep the back knee bent. So you're more just in this, coaxing this position. And maybe you come down to your forearms, and maybe then you can release your head down. If you don't have a block or a pillow, you could also stack the fists and rest it on the third eye. It really helps to take you into what is called pratyahara, that internal gaze, that internal focus of drawing the senses back into the source. So once you have this position, sort of restorative king pigeon in either version, just go through the layers. Breathing, releasing the left glute, the left IT band, grounding the right hip down, maybe just rocking side to side. If you feel tension in your neck and your shoulders, then stretch your hands out. And again, find something if you need to rest your head down. And this is a really yin posture. It helps you really turn inside. So again, you might find that you want to kind of go in, you back off, you go in again. So revisit it in a way that's just coaxing the surrender, because this is what it's really about. So don't push, don't force. And then of course, we'll go the other way, just so you can see how it is. Some of us have this more sort of a swan-like elegant posture. And then we might notice we're sort of up here, sort of floating. Then make sure there's something you can ground into. So use a block if you're quite high up here. That will also stop any pressure if you're feeling it too much in the knees. So be creative with your pillows, your blankets, your props, and then we can spiral around a little bit here. And you might find by then, oh, it just wants to release, and you can straighten the back leg, really press through the back heel, and then place the knee down. And then turning around again. So instead of here, we start to feel that spiraling around, and then you start to feel, oh, the psoas release, the groin open, that left hip start to rock down. So we can just rock for a few moments here, just coaxing that left hip down to the ground. Then we can rise up, really stretched out, releasing out of the lower back, opening up, using the mudra, this Jnana mudra again. Full inhale. I'm making either the fist as a pillow or stretching out the hands, and releasing, relaxing down, or using your block or your pillow to rest your forehead. If you feel not much is happening to release into that right glute, then take the angle more towards parallel of the front of your yoga mat. And play around with that angle. But if you ever get sharp pain in the knee, then forget that. Just bring it in close. And then just find that way of sinking down. Really relaxing the belly into that posture. Again, take your time, a good sort of 4 minutes with each side in that reclining pigeon. So from here, I just wanted to show you the last sort of base chakra opening. It's very powerful to do. And if we don't have much time for all these postures, I would say just come to this one and work with this in the progression from here. So we can start in the Malasana. So from here, some of us might have our heels raised up. If that's the case and you want to ground again, get your blocks. Imagine I have 2 blocks here, and we just let the heels sink down. The feet will be quite turned out, especially if our hips are really tight. Over time, as you do it, because there's a miracle with yoga, as the body starts to change, as we're consistent and compassionate with the body, it starts to open to one day you might find that you can actually drop back Bring the feet in a little bit more parallel, be more like a chaiwala, just squatting there, quite comfortable, base chakra open, drawing energy from the earth. So from here, you can sneak your top arms down and press them out. It's like you give yourself your own chiropractic. So as you take the top arms out, you engage the inner knees, and this actually pops open the back of the sacroiliac joint. And then we can find a space to lift through the front body, open the chest. We tend to start like this, all hunched over, a bit caveman-like. But as we grow, as we evolve, we rise up and lift into this upana, rising motion, to lift through the crown, opening the heart, coming into Anjali Mudra. This is the mudra of Anahata chakra. Breathing up from the base to the heart. Use Mula Bandha again, so we're breathing in. I'm engaging Mula Bandha, the fist just showing that, all the way to the crown, and release. You can relax the jaw, empty the exhale with the mouth open, jaw up with mouth closed. Feel the bandha drawing power, like you're drinking in from the earth. Continue this for a good few moments so you really feel, wow, I've really rebuilt this biofeedback loop with the earth again. I'm feeling restored, strengthened, energized. A lot of the sort of exhaustion, tamas of the body, the unconscious patterns, the darkness element, that is the word for tamas. And you see that empties out when you open the hips like that and you open the base chakra. It's like you're prizing it open through that squatting position. If that one feels okay for you, then you might like to go into the next version of it, which is a ninja pose. So from Malasana, here, we can just take your right leg out and you ground your toe down. Now this heel might be up. Start with it in that way and hands on the ground. And you stretch out, so you're opening through, flushing those liver lines. Stretching out the leg, and then we're just going to transition, keeping the bum really low, stealthily shifting to the other side. If that feels quite comfortable, then you can hold your ankles and you can keep the feet grounded and slink from side to side, keeping the bum low as if you're under the searchlights and you want to set them off. And you can feel that slow, engaged, powerful movement to stay low to the earth as you slink side to side. And again, you would shift back and forth, using the rhythm, letting the breath lead the movement as you go back and forth. And you'll feel a bit more of an opening through the adductors by that time as well. Taking a deep breath in here, you can then bring the legs together. And from here, we're going to come into a sort of closing sequence in preparation for the tray release. So, first of all, Paschimottanasana. This is the forward bend. For some of us, forward bends are more challenging than back bends because of how tight it has been locked into our pelvis. So, we need to do a little self-massage. We need to just coax the hips open. Use your thumbs on the back of the medius here. You can feel the back of the pelvis. Just press in and then just start to feel the rotational movement of the pelvis. So instead of like lurching, reaching, trying to kind of jump ahead of ourselves with our shoulders as if we've got somewhere we have to get to in a rush. Well, that's the way the world is kind of setting itself up at the moment. You kind of really want to kind of take a back seat, drop in, and really from the root, grow tall with that massage into your hips. And then you find there's a rhythm that comes lengthening through the spine. Now you might like to really start with the legs quite far apart. And because I'm pregnant, I'm demonstrating this with my legs far apart, but you might want to do this one in this way. So if you can feel now this extension through the heels, you're engaging the bandhas of the knees, the energy seals, the quads are active, thereby lengthening, releasing the hamstrings and the calves. We're massaging the pelvis open, and you can actually pull the flesh from under the sit bones. As you rise up, exhale, waving the spine, drawing back. Exhale, giving yourself in surrender, drawing power from the earth. You could even use the arms in a wave-like motion. And we just rock side to side. Find a comfortable way to sort of ease and massage your body into that forward bend until you can just rest there. Just sort of almost like just sort of slob out. If you find it's tender in the knees, then bend the knees a little bit. And really just sort of allow the length to happen through the spine. Really primarily focus on releasing the pelvis so that the lower back will open up so you can really rise up and lengthen the spine. You can even do this with making circles to nurture the kidney energy, which is that youthful, sprite-like energy in the body. You need to feel that regenerating power. So if you just take some little massages there, that can ease off the adrenal energy in the body. Massaging in towards the spine, breathing in. And you keep that warmth and that sort of craniosacral hold down the lower back. And it keeps the chest open as well. It's like you draw your wings back and you release down. So try any version there, but again do the undulation, taking time to sink into it. Breathe in and backing off, and exhale, drawing in again, inhaling and then backing off. So use the flow-like rhythm to help the body move into surrender. From there, we've released a lot more on the sciatic lines, the fear lines in the body. So now we're going to come into a reclined posture and enter into the tray release. So just before the body wants to open in that way, you might like to add this one last posture in. Is to just try this rising up of this little bridge so the psoas releases all the way here. So the psoas coming up through the inner thighs, wrapping through into the hip and connecting to the lower back and up through into the diaphragm. So you feel that opening up as you press your hips up to the sky. Inhale, and the spine glides down. Vertebra by vertebra descends until you sort of like kiss the earth and you zip the spine back into the earth. And you take a little pelvic roll to raise up and then draw it down again, then lifting up through the pubic bone, and vertebra by vertebra rises all the way up until we stretch out the psoas. And engaging the knees together, don't let them draw out. If you find that you are, then what you might like to do is place a block, or again, just squeeze a pillow, keeping the adductors engaged. That will make you lift from the core. Keep the feet rooting, press the palms down. Really root the top arms down and rising up, squeezing the adductors to lift up and lengthen. Inhale. And taking time to roll up and down. So from here, we're ready to enter into the tray release. So in the tray release, I would suggest that you don't have a blanket on, so that we're not yet soothing the parasympathetic nervous system. We're allowing the trauma, tension patterns, stress to leave the body. So as we go into the tray release now, all these preparatory poses have created an open for you to actually defrag everything. So just to explain, the tray release represents trauma release exercises. And we're going to just show one here today, which becomes a very powerful self-healing practice of always releasing stress and tension from the body. It's like we open a release valve, and all of that conditioning, the pressure cooker that's behind, just like steam can come out. Essentially, this was found that by observing nature, what animals do when they get away from their predators is they shake and they just shiver. You might find yourself doing this in sort of exercise classes or yoga classes, and we're so conditioned to thinking there's something wrong, that we're weak or we can't do it. But actually that nervous shake that happens is the nervous system defragging, and it needs to. It's carrying such a great weight of backlog of memory. And trauma is essentially experience that's happened that then gets clamped onto, identified to, stored in the body, stored in the cellular consciousness, and locked in. And then over time, in the resistance to it and the holding it in, it builds up all kinds of degeneration, accelerating the aging process, stressing the body, blocking the energy pathways, blocking the pranic flow. It can, in all ways, basically weaken the body and the functions of the body-mind system. When the psoas is in constant fight, flight or freeze, always wanting to go into this hinging, coiling inner child response, what happens is it gets exhausted. And so in its exhaustion, it just becomes so frayed, like a tight, hardened elastic band. And it stops the currents of our earthing and our grounding and our releasing. And it impedes our breath by pulling into the diaphragm, locking in our breath, so that we tend to breathe shallowly, adrenally up here, rounding, trying to protect from imagined threat and pain. So essentially from that closing down, the organs are squashed, the nervous system is compressed, the spine starts to compress, and therefore all the nerve flow to all the major organs gets impeded. Therefore they start to degenerate. So many illnesses, many dysfunctional diseases, degeneration of the body comes from stress, fear, trauma. So we need to find a way of releasing this from our cellular conditioning on a psychological, emotional level, but not just through something like talk therapy. We need to find ways that actually moves out of the physical conditioning, so we don't store it and lock it into our genetic codes, our DNA and our RNA, and then our epigenetics keep conditioning that to pass it on to our offspring. So essentially the tray release becomes a way of defragging and emptying out that conditioning. So it's been really effective working with this with war victims or people who experience extreme atrocity. And you can't mentalize, you can't rationalize some levels of trauma that human beings have to go through. But there is many different kinds of trauma. We've all experienced trauma in one way or another. It's part of human life. But it's more like, how do we deal with that? We're so used to suppressing, locking away, compartmentalizing, hiding, denying, or transcending, avoiding, going into addiction, all these different ways to try and escape from direct meeting of it. So this is a direct meeting of it, but it doesn't mean you need to go into psychoanalysis. It's more that we're going to let the body just speak and allow its own dialogue and communication. So we want to begin by lying down. So if you can make yourself into a comfortable position, lying down, but just lengthening out the spine and bring the soles of the feet together. So we start with this position, and we're going to keep the soles of the feet together throughout the whole exercise, although there's going to be times where you want to just take them apart. See if you can go through the resistance. See if you can go through the part that wants to just stop. That's usually the freeze response or the flight, the wanting to check out and avoid. So from here, we're going to lie down, and again, like we just did before in Setu Bandhasana, that little bridge, just lift up the pubic bone to the sky, lengthen the lower back, and draw so that the lower back can relax into the earth and allow the knees to drop out. So from here, you just let the body drop into relaxation. And we just take some slow, deep breaths, flushing with awareness through the body as you breathe up from your feet, up to the crown, relaxing out. Maybe you'd like to coax your shoulders together and draw the shoulders to melt them away from the ears. Then we're going to bring our knees 2 inches higher than where they naturally fall. And we're just going to hold them there. And you might notice a big arch start to come here in the lumbar. Notice it again, if you can, just replace it to let the lower back ground into the earth. So the only part that's staying engaged really is the soles of the feet together and the knees lifting up just a little bit higher than where they normally rest. Then you might start to feel a quiver, and it might be very minor at first. It might feel more just sort of vibrational, like it's just sort of happening internally, little quaking in the nervous system. And then you might notice control patterns come in, or resistance, which basically tries to lock it and hold it and control and tension. Sometimes we get used to in our yoga practice thinking it's about holding and endurance and tensioning, and actually really we need to let the deconditioning take place. Let the shakes happen. Encourage them a little bit. When you first do this, sometimes you don't shake much. And as you get used to it, the body trusts the process, it starts to shake more. And you notice it's completely involuntary. You can't make it happen. So stop psychologically trying to stop it happening if you can. And breathe through, relaxing the rest of the body. Now you might find it helps to raise the hands over the head so the diaphragm releases also. Because when we've had a lot of fear experiences, fear conditioning or trauma, we tend to be really tight in our diaphragm. We have shallow breathing patterns. Sometimes we're used to holding our breath for long periods. So really we want to encourage the diaphragm, the way it's connected into the psoas, we want to encourage that to release. So if you open up your ribs without sending the thoracic up, try to keep thoracic grounded and let shoulders open. The head shouldn't be on a pillow at this point as well. Stay flat, grounding into the earth. And if you find not much shaking happening at all, you could try taking the soles of your feet, the heels, away from your pubic bone a little bit further. So it's a longer diamond shape. Then you might notice it's easier to start shaking. And then we need to allow the sounds, the sighs, the groans. Important to let the jaw relax corresponding to the psoas. So if you feel you've got your mouth tight and you're sort of piercing at the lips, if you can, just start to relax the jaw, relax the mouth. Tongue is gently resting on the roof of the mouth. Allow some sighs and just encourage with the sound massage as well to tone out. And then after 2 minutes or so, although I will demonstrate this whole practice quickly, you will be able to do it for at least 10 minutes, giving at least 2 minutes between each point. You don't need to time it, you just get a feeling for it. And then you just bring the knees 2 inches higher. And you might notice as you go deeper into the practice, as you really relax more, the knees will start to shake more and quiver a bit more like chattering teeth. It can be quite extreme. It might be very barely perceptible outwardly. Don't worry about that. Just let it be as it is for you. But don't let the feet slip out. Keep the soles of the feet together if you can. And then after another 2 minutes, you can then bring the knees again a bit closer, about 2 inches closer. And you keep progressing in this way until eventually, after 2 minutes between each point, we get to the place where it's like one fist between our knees. And then it might be sort of like chattering together. Very difficult to make them touch. The last phase, we'll try to get the knees touching together. And as we relax into that, you might notice lots of memory comes. Maybe past life, maybe this life. Stored, locked in memory. You need to give it passage with sighing, with breathing, allowing it to pass through, allowing the emotional waves that come. Sometimes there will be this freeze response where everything just tightens and goes cold. Maybe you shiver with the sense of the cold and you feel really cold, but don't put a blanket on. Let the cold come. Let the shivers happen. Let the release happen. Other times you might feel heat and more angry, frustrated, more resentful. These sort of energies of the fight program, the protection, and everything hardens. And other times you might feel like you're just checking out, you've spaced out, you don't know where you are or what you're doing. That's the flight program, to just escape, to go out. Or you just want to go away, you just want to run away and change what you're doing. You just notice those, and we're going to carry that process into our lives, but you don't go with their impulse. Those are the reptilian brain, that's the psoas. That's the kind of primary response to go into reaction, reprograms, rather than moving from conscious action. So you want to change that habit. It starts right here, so that can translate into our lives, so that we're able to be responsive in the moments, in presence, moving from authentic action, from awareness, not from our previous programs of the survival conditioning in the body. So from here, the last phase is keeping the soles of the feet together. I know it feels weird, it's a release for the ankles, but you just start to lift and float the sacrum off the ground,
in this little bridge pose like we did before, but this time the soles of the feet together. Rising the hips as high as you can, and it might feel quite intense. Keep it there for a few moments. The glutes are really engaged. Squeezing there helps release the hips. Take a full inhale. Hold for a moment. See if you can then just let the shake happen into the lower back and let the lower back wobble. The glutes then relax and let everything shake loose. Sighing out, emptying the breath. After 2 minutes up there, if you can, hinge the hips. Draw them together. Draw the knees together or slightly apart, just coming into this little gentle rocking motion, like a little self-hug. If you want to, you could also just catch the back of the calves, coming into the blissful baby posture. Ananda Balasana, again, rocking can really help soothe because we're working with the inner child at this point. So gentle rocking motion, sealing the sacroiliac joint into the ground, not lifting up because the hips are tight. If it's too much to catch the back of the calves, just catch the back of the knees, but pressing the soles of the feet to mirror the ceiling. Or you might just stay in a little hug like this. From a gentle rocking motion, like a just baby-like rocking motion. And we just curl up, and you get your blanket, put the blanket over you, and maybe you have a pillow, or you can use your arm to nest your head. Just closing your eyes and dropping into this fetal position as you take your knees closer up towards your chest, lengthening the lower back. But we lie on our right side because this is the masculine channels of the body. This is the yang, the doer, the active energy. So we want to let the feminine currents of the body freely flow, that nurturing, receptive, creative, intuitive. And that's like the lunar currents of the body. The right is the solar. So then we're letting the body know it's at rest. You can integrate now. And maybe really lying there for a good 10 minutes, maybe playing a piece of music that you find really soothing and nurturing, that really helps you to just allow the integration of that deep release, that's able to support that letting go, staying there, curled up within yourself, and maybe have a eye mask over your eyes or something to help you go inside and really take all your attention in. You know, this is the time now, this is autumn. We've just gone through Samain. This is the sense where, you know, the sap of all the plants and the trees, and it's being drawn down back into the earth into source energy. And the same for us. It's like we have to go with the season now and draw into that inner nourishment. So as you lie there, you might feel really vulnerable, you might feel really baby-like. You just play this piece of music that feels supportive for you to be like held in that wonder as you integrate. And in that way, you can use this practice whenever you feel, these sort of once a week or at night. It's been helpful for people who have insomnia, a lot of stress conditions. It's cured many very intense conditions just by this simple practice, which doesn't need to take more than 10 minutes really, which can be done at night. You might notice if you're someone who clamps the jaw a lot, or someone that finds that the body really tensions up in the night time, it would start to change that. You'll release so much stress out of the system, your subconscious isn't constantly trying to process it in the night, which would mean that you never really enter delta brainwaves. You never really know what true relaxation is. You never know what surrender is. And this is what it's all leading to. So essentially now, in that place of rest, if you have a mantra, you can just sort of allow that to be intoned. But I want to suggest a mantra that's optional to use. And it's a very simple mantra. It literally means love on the inhale and light on the exhale. So as you breathe in, the sound healing vibration is Ma. As you exhale, Om. Ma. This one you don't need to do aloud. It's japa mantra. It's done within, because as you're breathing in, you're intoning, you're feeling the vibration of love surge into every cell. And literally taking that love into all the parts that didn't feel love, that were in pain, that felt that they were in separateness. This is one of the most powerful healing tools there is. The power of mantra, but it's encoded with the transmission of the masters. So that mantra in itself is literally drawing love back into the form and radiating out light, truth, awareness. Om is the seed sound of creation, is the vibration within all form that's appearing. So this is the simplest and yet subtlest alchemic tool of yoga. So allow yourself to try, even for a few moments, that sense of kind of hypnotizing yourself into a semi-trance state of breathing in Ma, breathing out Om. Ma in the inhale, Om on the exhale. And it's like a wave drawing, flooding love through the system. Exhaling, emptying out, radiating out light. And you can try it wherever you are and whatever you're doing. It can become the pace and rhythm with which you're walking, or when you're waiting at the bus stop. You can integrate all aspects of yoga into your daily living. So this will become a really good way, this mantra, lying down, resting in that fetal position, or in the child's pose that we showed earlier. It's a really good postures for just resting and deepening into that mantra. So let's see how you go, and just try, experiment, see how the yoga helps integrate you over the next few days following the group healing. That will support the embodiment in through the humanist level. Thank you for listening. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityoma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.